daily, The Guardian newspaper. Why UK government banned dependent visa for Nigerian students. That's credited to the High Commissioner there. Sometimes, was it earlier this month or towards the late end of last month when we heard that news that as from January 2024, it wouldn't happen anymore. Dependents will not be able to come in to the UK through the students thing. But let's just wait and see. You want to know more about that story, please check it out. It's virtually on all the dailies for today. And on the top strip of this same daily, The Guardian newspaper, the Presidential Election Petitions Committee says APM closes petition challenging Tinubu's victory. Court adjourns to July the 14th. July the 14th. We'll keep you abreast as to happens from there. And Tinubu pushes for FDI as world leaders seek inclusive financial system at Paris summit. And I need inmates. Okay, I feed inmates. Narrates 14-year prison experience for not cooperating with policemen. Wow, wow, wow. All right. We just hope that's 14 years. That's amazing there. Let's go straight to the next daily that I have with me here, and that's the Nation newspaper. The Nation newspaper says student loan plan sparks controversy in universities. ASU, Kunwa, okay. Parents take different positions. Policy due to begin September. It's something we've all been waiting for. Let's see what this means and how this can be manifested, and this could really have a positive effect in the nation. Coming straight a little bit down here, NBS discos raked in 247 billion naira in first quarter. All right, that's credited to the National Bureau of Statistics there, saying discos raked in 247 billion naira in the first quarter of this year. All right, moving further. Okay, Envoy reform well received in UK. All right, yeah, that's that's something everybody's wondering. The UK is a haven. Everybody wants to go there, but they're saying at this moment in time, hey, dependents, you might not have the opportunity to come do that again. Makinde tips 6 ex-commissioners to return. Okay, we'll see what it looks like in Oyo State. We are hearing here commissioners are going to be appointed. It's one of the discussions we'll look into here in why is this happening? Why is this taking forever in Osun State? I think it's about 6 months, almost 6 months now. We've not heard about who are the commissioners for each parastatals in our dear state. Why don't we have them right now? All right. Moving further on from the pages of the Nation newspaper still, Ogbe to government, state police will end insecurity. Well, we have always spoken about this, and we just hope something positive will emanate from there very soon. What I told President by Bill Gates. You want to know what one of the richest men in the world told Mr. President before he traveled to France? It's needed. You can check it out. I think one of the major things that went viral on Twitter was the aspect whereby one of his daughters told him before he left the US that, look, when you get to Nigeria, you need to meet Burna Boy and Thames. Is it Thames or Rema or something? Yeah. So these guys are very popular amidst the other guys, Davido, Wizzy. But it was nice that Bill Gates recognized his talent, and Nigeria has got them in abundance. And a co-rice enters market, sells for 33,000 naira. I thought it was going to be cheaper than that, but a co-rice is selling for about 33,000 naira. All right, quickly, let me look at some of the other headlines from Vanguard newspaper for this morning, from the pages of Vanguard newspaper. Stay clear of more borrowing. DMO cautions federal government. Obviously. Nigeria's debt is alarming. It's in trillions. So we just hope something needful, something meaningful will be done to avert debt. But there's no way government will not borrow. But even if government is borrowing, let there be that impact seen that this is what these monies are meant for, and it's being utilized the way it has to be. But we'll keep our fingers crossed. We'll just keep abreast of what government is using. All this money is being borrowed, is put into play. And coming down a little bit, ministerial slot, Tinubu may dump ex-governors, prefer technocrats. That's credited to a source speaking there, and full stories on the pages, the inside pages of the Vanguard newspaper. Okay, Benue Assembly recommends sack of 23 local government chairmen, others, and Tinubu Shetima, governors, judges adhere to get others to get 114% salary increase. Wow. Yeah, all right. It's virtually common to all the dailies for today. Yeah, just like I told you about Bill Gates said, my daughter excited, I'll see Burna Boy Rema in Nigeria. That's credited to Bill Gates. I actually followed that story to a large extent yesterday, and Bill Gates had to Google who Burna Boy was, who Rema was, and found out that Burna was one of the biggest Afrobeat stars in Africa, not just in Nigeria, in Africa right about now. And I hope he will be able to dance to his songs. I wish him the very best. Thank you for recognizing talent, Mr. Bill Gates. Moving further, doctors raise alarm over suspected case of rabies in Kaduna. Please, something must be done urgently concerning that. On the top strip of the same daily, the Vanguard newspaper, PIA, NMDPRA clears air on midstream, upstream operations. You want to know more about that, please check it out from the pages of the Vanguard newspaper. An NGE president, IPIOT, attack, congratulate Eze Anaba and his new ESCO. Play 2, about 14 killed in night attack on 2 communities. That state has been boiling in the last 1 month. It has really been an atmosphere of killings. We just hope something can be done, could be done as soon as possible. Okay, let's see other stories we still have here. Tribunal, Tinubu, INEC kick as Obi tenders total PVCs in 32 states. Oh boy. All right. And UK businesses, okay, now pending possibly to Tinubu. All right. These are some of the headlines making the rounds from the pages of the various newspapers that we have here. And when I return, my guests will be seated. Well, first of all, we'll take a report on some of what is happening in Osun State. And as I told you earlier, we want to assess the governor's administration in 6 months. 6 months in office. How well has he done? What does this look like for him? We'll look at the white paper and chieftaincy panel set up by the government of the day, but the secretary to the government of the federation is saying, hey, you know nothing about it. We want to also look at the asset recovery. There's been a panel that has been set up, but hey, what is happening? We've not heard anything concerning that. So then I stated this earlier, the appointment of commissioners 6 months into this administration. Hey, where are the commissioners to work with Mr. Governor? We will also take a report concerning the suspended teachers. There was a protest here in Osun State capital about teachers protesting while they have been talks that there is a low number of teachers in our schools right here. But let's just go straight. We'll take a report concerning that. When we come back, I'll be discussing with my guests. Please stay with us. Good morning.
Television identifies Duro Ladipo as a major character in history. Funmilayo Ransome Kuti was an educationist and advocate of women's rights. She was recognized for her vitriolic comments against colonial policy of taxation as it affected the Nigerian women. BARR, as fondly addressed by her women followers, Funmilayo championed the initiation of universal adult suffrage, which gave an unprecedented leeway for women to contest elective offices and power to exercise voting rights. Married to a foremost educationist and teacher, Israel Oladotun Ransome Kuti, the first president of Nigeria Union of Teachers, Funmilayo Ransome Kuti was the mother of children who inherited her spirit of activism. Olufela and Be Ololari, the former, a renowned musical legend. She was the first female student of Abeokuta Grammar School and the first female to own and drive a car in Nigeria. The award recipient of Member of Order of Nigeria MON and Lenin Peace Prize, was born on 25th October 1900 and was killed on 13th April 1978 by rampaging road soldiers in Lagos. Western Spring Television identifies Funmilayo Ransome Kuti as a watershed character in history. Hilas Olayinka Herbert Macaulay, politician, nationalist and journalist, was the first Nigerian to qualify as a civil engineer, surveyor and architect. Born on November 14, 1864, Herbert Macaulay was the founder of Nigeria's National Democratic Party, the first political party in pre-independent Nigeria. Scholars of Nigeria's political history describe Herbert Macaulay as the intellectual bulldog of 19th century Nigerian nationalist movement, in a deference to his qualities as founder and leader of two foremost political parties, Nigeria National Democratic Party (NNDP) and National Council of Nigerian Citizens (NCNC). His matchless versatility in party organization and control kept the British colonialists on their toes in the entire span of his active life. After his death on 7th May 1946, Herbert Macaulay remains a hero of his country, which recognized his anti-colonial struggles. Today, Nigeria's 10 naira coin bears his oval face and trademark moustache.
Residents of Osun State are expecting white papers on reports on several panels the Governor Ademola Adeleke constituted on assumption of duty for the purpose of moving the state forward. Adeleke, who was sworn in as the 6th executive governor of the state on 27th of November 2022, issued 6 executive orders covering chieftains matters, appointment issues, setting up of review panel, staff audit and employment matters, and executive order on state bank accounts. 6 months after, the state government says it is still awaiting report from the review committee set up. Residents of Osun State, however, wants the governor to release the white paper on chieftaincy and employment matters, amongst others, as the fuel time is no longer a friend, and besides, the people affected are eager to know their fate. A social commentator, Wole Oladapo, in his opinion, thinks the government should release the white paper so that it can ease the tension in the states.
The issue of the white paper is generating a lot of ripples in town. A lot of people are expectant. You have quite a number of issues. The one that has to do with civil service, the chieftaincy, and it's generating furore all across some communities. In fact, it's creating tension. So we're hoping that government will heed to their earlier agreement that they will release the white paper, to release it as quickly as possible so that tension can be doused along the line of where those investigations were done by government.
Similarly, a public affairs analyst, IDOWU, wants the governor to do the needful by releasing the white paper without further delay.
I believe when the governor resumed at the inauguration, he rolled out some executive order suspending some traditional rulers in the state, and after the committee set up has finished their works, I believe by now the white paper should have been released. The governor should do the needful, because the people of those communities, they were worried that what is the fate of their community. Whether they want to return the suspended back to the palace, or they want to start a fresh process. Government should do the needful, because it is after 6 months now, and we should not allow this thing to be prolonged unnecessarily. Enough is enough.
The secretary to the state government of Osun, Seslim Igbalaye, in his reaction stated that the government needs to follow due process by scrutinizing the papers before release.
I can categorically tell you that the process is ongoing, the work is ongoing. We don't want to make any mistake, and we don't want to commit the blunders committed by the past government when we are criticizing them that they didn't follow due process. We also should not dampen into that kind of illegality. So we need to be very careful on the white paper. We need to take our time, scrutinize everything, set up a committee. The committee report, we need to look into it in total, so that the mistakes they made by the past administration should not be committed by the present government.
Igbalaye gave his assurance, without quoting any certain date or time, that the white paper would be released.
And I said earlier that very, very soon. It can be tomorrow, it can be in an hour's time, it can be in the minister, But I don't want to commit myself. I told you earlier that this thing, we need to look at it critically, and we don't want any mistake to be done by our government.
Meanwhile, the 1,500 displaced teachers are waiting eagerly to know their fate at the release of the white paper. Olayinka Ali, Western Spring Television News. At a brief on the death profile of Osun State presented to the state's traditional rulers by Governor Ademola Adeleke at the Ministry of Finance on Thursday, the governor vows to probe the past administration on the loan stock of the tune of 331.32 billion naira. The governor disclosed that the large portion of this particular loan was taken after the July 16, 2022 gubernatorial election, which former Governor Adegboyega Oyetola lost. Governor Adeleke said there was no naira left in the government coffers when he and his deputy resumed office on Monday, 29th November 2022, stating further that there was no explanation on how the loan was expended.
A large portion of this particular loan was taken after July 16, 2022 election, which Governor Oyetola lost. No information on the repayment terms. The only fund in government coffers as at Monday, 29 November, was for November 2022 salary. Otherwise, the state treasury was empty. As your governor, I will ask questions. on your behalf. And we demand for answers.
He stated that as at December 15, 2022, the total loan stock is 331.32 billion naira, agitating that if the 76 billion naira VAT on salaries and pensions were added, Osun State is indebted to the tune of 407.32 billion naira, insisting that the amount owed contractors is yet to be determined. Responding, the chairman of the Council of Oba, His Royal Majesty Oba Enitson Ogunwusi, the Oni of Ife commended the governor for bringing the matter before the traditional rulers. Oni of Ife, however, urged the governor to be patient because government is continual, a position that other traditional rulers also shared. He thereafter assured the governor of all the traditional rulers' cooperation to move the state to a greater height.
We shouldn't be very one-sided when it comes to politics, but we should advise accordingly. The governor that just left, Governor Oyetola, did his best in all ramifications. Whatever issue that they might have, we traditional rulers can mediate and sort things out.
Speaking, the Oluwo of Iwo, Oba Abdul Rashid Akombi, who deferred in his opinion, said he would not dispute the figures that were reeled out, but still not averse to accountability. But he doubts if Oyetola would be culpable.
He has started well by consulting and also telling us what he has met on the ground. This is transparency. That is being accountable.
The Olowu of Owukuta, Oba Adekunle Oyelude, urged the governor to avoid distractions and face governance as much as he is true to accountability.
Is this the first time the state chief executive will be bringing the state accounts to us as the stakeholder and co-owner of the state? He has impressed us with that, and we have seen the exposure of the state, the debt profile, the true debt profile of the state, contrary to what anybody can bandit from anywhere. So we advise him to stay focused and continue to pilot the affair of the state in peace and unity.
The governor has promised to meet with the Obas quarterly for advice. Olainka Ali, River FM News.
Yeah, definitely. We own both River FM and WSTV. I'd like to thank you for that beautiful report. It's put together by my directors and the entire team there. But joining me, all right, live here at this moment in time, I have with me Mr. LANRE FADAHUNSI, a public affairs analyst, a social commentator. Thank you for joining me. Good morning to you, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Let's look at this together, the debt profile of these great states, and we heard what Mr. Governor intend to do as at last year. We heard that the debt profile was about 331.2 billion naira as at December. Where does this take Osun State? And we've not really heard of ways to pay this debt. Who are those responsible for incurring this debt to this state? Sorry, I wanted to say nation. This state. And what are the plans of this present administration to pay off these loans?
Well, over time, we've heard denials and all what have you about the debt profile of the state. And with this new administration and its own decision to come clean about it, at least the meeting with the royal fathers, you heard one of them speak about it, that for the first time, they have been shown the real debt profile of the state, as it were. And 331 billion. Yes. Don't forget that he said by the time they factor the arrears of workers, that arrears does not end with workers alone, including pensioners who are given half pension, half salaries. That's an arrears that the state had. It's an indebtedness. However, there are some other underlying issues that were not actually shown to the public. One, apart from that deduction that they did, some people were doing cooperative contributions from their pay. The deductions were still part of things that government had used. That's recourse to those people who had it. If I'm having savings and you are giving me half salary, I should have a right to even take part of my loan. I mean, as a loan from my cooperative, but even the cooperative deductions were not paid. So a lot of all of these things added up to be the 76 billion. So at some 400 billion indebtedness, and what is the revenue of the state? So, as it were, it's a government that is not going to really survive if they are not careful by having some basic planning. Now, economy is talking about the management of lack. That's the basic reason why you have economics in your whatever reasoning that, look, I have 10, I need to get 100. So how do I manage this 10 to at least meet up what the 100 was supposed to do? So that's where you now start managing that slack or limited resources. But now when you are starting off, and that basic lacuna of indebtedness is what you are faced with. So you need to come clean. However, is when you are coming clean, you must search your heart too, because there will be some openings that Providence brings onto states. And when you are not also 100% open about those ones, some people are also watching those ones. So to me, I believe as a nation, we need to start looking at issues from the point of having a permanent solution. I recall in South Africa, and there's a suggestion for even Nigeria, in those days when they were changing from the apartheid regime to Mandela,
yes,
one of the first things he did was to set up Truth and Reconciliation Committee, which was to tell some people who had amassed wealth that, look, if you can come sit down, we tell you what you have stolen, you bring back. So you look at all the EFCC cases. So many governors have gone there with facts and evidence, hard facts even. But Jimmy Presilva was a lot of properties, and they were returned to him when he moved to the ruling party. So some of these things won't really work out if you really need solutions. Call these people. Look, this is a fund, and these are some of the places you have kept them. We need some back. We'll just receive and say, go and sin no more. That way you can recoup. And they say to, if you go into the records of Osun, the monies did not just fly off. Let's see what is on ground. What was collected? Look at the Elisha water scheme. Look at the Elisha water scheme. Millions of dollars, everything factored in dollars. Don't quarrel with these people. Tell them, look, this is what we have tracked.
To have this facts.
Yes. We are not taking you to court. Let's sit down. Bring back some of this so that we can work for the good of the people. Because most of these things, I mean, if you take people to court, you keep going and going to court, and the process becomes longer, and almost immediately people are forgetting about the case, and it takes just a few individuals to just turn it around and say, I mean, die the case, and that's the end of it. So, I mean, look at all the years we've had the FCC. How many prosecutions of political corruption have they solved? Very few. And so when you ask the courts will say, look, they did not come with confounding evidence, and so we cannot, sentence people because of lack of prosecution evidence, whether deliberately or advertently because they did not have information. But you see, when you investigate, you must get your facts right before you say you want to prosecute. So
yeah, we've had issues at times where the courts will say EFCC don't have enough evidence.
That is what I'm saying. So you are supposed to have, even if it's only 2, you can pick evidences out of 20 issues against somebody. Stick to those 2 and have hard facts before you even go on to arrest the person.
Osun State is a state whereby the IGR isn't on the large scale compared to probably states where they are oil producing, or Lagos states where you have enormous opportunities.
Over taxation. Let me be sincere with you. You see, governance is about the people. And when the people are not actually getting service from government, and you are now coming around to say, because you want to generate internal revenue, you want to heap more burdens on the people. That's the problem with our nation. You see, everything that has to do with the burden, we want the citizens to bear it. And the leaders of our nation are looming large because that is what they think their lifestyle should be. That's not. Let me tell you a practical example. There was a time you see, towards the end of the year, you want to collect revenue for a new year in the local government service. And we had a few people that sat with the chairman then. I said, look, the best way to get this done, render some services to people you want to attract revenue from. And so when you give, you expect to take. Fine. The motor parks. Let's go to all the motor parks in Ife Central then. What do you need? Some will say we want toilets. Some said they want a gate that would distinguish their own park. Fine. And the local government went and did those things and said, look, January is about to come. We want all the revenue of vehicles that come in here to be taken from this local government for acne permit, for and people who are traveling from Akure and all the rest that enter the beautiful park, I say, it's good to pay. Once you have paid somewhere, you can't pay in another place. And the money came, but because services were rendered, you give and take. We don't want to give, we want to continue to take from the people. They will resist. That's the fact of it. The state government of Osun should look outside the box. And by reason of that, I want to advise that they look more at getting technocrats to be part of their government. Because when you want to come to some other issues, I know. But because to me, I don't see us having political solutions because of party affiliations, because of other considerations. But you see, look at this issue now. For instance, after the dissolution of all the boards, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu said, look, leave NAFDAC, leave NEMA. NDLA. Because NAFDAC is delivering. Professor Mrs. Adeye is a technocrat. She's not a political party person. Maybe the husband was. And so that person owes nobody any apology for doing what she has to do. Look at Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala in those days. Look at so those are people who have delivered because there are some other things guiding their actions. So more of those people should be in government that wants to succeed. Not because, he's my kinsman, he should be here, he's from this place. We should start looking at that.
Technocrats.
Let
me just digress a little bit, because that was something I saw from the dailies today, that the president probably will look at having more of technocrats in his team than ex-governors who are politicians. But that, by the way, Osun State is one state, aside the fact that it's a very calm state, which most of us love that aspect of being calm, but it's what should come in. We saw Mr. Governor a couple of months ago while addressing the Obas of the Obas in this great state here. But has it been worth it in 6 months if you have to assess the government of the administration of His Excellency Senator Ademola Nuruddin Jackson Adeleke? How would you quantify what he's been able to do, at least in 6 months? Have we been able to move forward in any capacity?
To me, from the day he came in, up until the 29th of May, it was like living every day like the last. First, there were the judicial cases. Secondly, he had a minority in the State Assembly, as at that time.
Yes.
And so, taking issues to that assembly would be Herculean. I mean, it would be miraculous if you're expecting much from that assembly. So it was like marking each day at a time to work that through. I mean, May 29, and this is still June.
Yeah.
So it's like he has just spent like 30, close to.
It just
it's not even up to 30 days, so it's just starting by my own assessment. However, that period, or that period of gestation, I call it, he should have had his template of, okay, commissioners here, advisors, names and all, that he would have been working on. The committees he set up to do certain things, have reports. Those reports too would have to wait till after that transition. So if people are hasty to say, why can't we get this? Why can't we get that? There are some actions that you have to take in concert with the State Assembly. And at that time, people were still hoping that something, of course, the opposition that had a majority in the State Assembly was still hoping that something magical will come from the Supreme Court. So at that point, they cannot let go of their gauntlets that, okay, let's allow this person rule by way of governance. So to me, people who are saying, oh, he's slow, he has not done much, to me, I don't consider it. I look at it from maybe the day the new assembly was inaugurated was the day one
of his
administration as the chief executive of Osun State.
All right, we still have quite a whole lot to talk about, and I want to also, because I actually wanted to look at the aspect that, look, this 6 months and we've not had commissioners.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but thank you for bringing us to bear. He will want his own people.
For instance, the list of commissioners who go to the assembly.
Yes.
So are you expecting them to give him a free? I mean, automatically, you must have to, in a way, trade. So you can now see a situation where a state assembly person will be saying, okay, even if you are going to pick your PDP people, I prefer this one to that one from my local government. And you now start trading off. Who are committed to you start trading off, because the assembly person will create problems there. So that's aside, that's gone. So let's assume that with the new state assembly and the current listing, we can now roll. However, we expect that it should be quick, because all of those things should have been thought through that period of time. So we expect to start seeing a list of commissioners going to the state assembly, where the party has a majority, a convincing majority, and so things will go seamlessly and faster.
We'll keep our fingers crossed. We'll watch the debt profile thing. We just hope, Osun State is able to...
That debt profile thing is huge, and part of it is, that's why I said, look, truth and reconciliation, there are some things that you cannot even hide. Call those people and tell them. It will create enough problems for you. Rather than do that, sit down and let's agree. First, if it's okay by us, return. But you know there was an accountant general. They said you took 100 and something billion, and they said you returned 30 billion. That 30 billion, if well utilized, can still do some things and plug some. So because I've looked at it, the route of the EFCC activities, and now when you say somebody is the watchdog, and each time the leader of the watchdog in our nation is leaving, it has to do with a corruption accusation. So who is actually watching who? So if that is the trend, why not think of another way? That, look, we have confirmed this. Please bring back.
Oh, don't you see this bringing up that aspect of, I know that they will just ask them to return a little bit, because if we give people that levity to be able to say, let me, out of 20, they will collect it, I will say how. Isn't that going to bring up more of an aspect of corruption and theft in governance?
Over the years, the nation has been at the loss for it. People do things with impunity and get away with it, especially these crafty, smart ones. Crafty, smart ones, they've crossed every T, they've dotted every I. And so you cannot see those things. But fine, while you've been in government, before you came, this was what you had.
Yeah.
While in government, you are not supposed to do this, and that kind of business, but we have tracked your accounts. These are traceable to you and your family. Those are confounding facts. So, I mean, we are not even accusing you of what you did, because some are so perfect, you cannot even fault their documentation. But records are there that you did not do any business. You did not sell anything. You did not buy and sell. How did you get this? I didn't fall from the sky, but you were expending government funds. On this count, morally, we hold it against you that you had shady deals. If we search, we will find them. Come and sit. Let's come to an agreement. You see, why that works in places is because we've had heads of states. There was Thomas Sankara, as head of state, that came back and said, look, wait a minute. There are certain things I collected as a military officer that were wrong, and I'm returning them. People have a turnaround 360 in changing. That's what leadership should do. Our nation cannot be the poverty capital of the world.
Absolutely.
And our leadership are the richest in terms of leadership in the world. How do you marry the two? So some of these things have to do with sacrifice. Sacrifice of, you see, people make names for themselves. And like you rightly said the other time, I look at people who worked with Baba Awolowo in those days. The Oluwasomis, Professor Oluwasomi, Foife, Makinde, and the rest of them, who were the intellectual think tank, were not taking any extra pay. It was just commitment to serve the Western region. Oh, we have this idea about education, industrialization. So that's where you see the Bodija estate and the Oluyole estate, industrial estate. You saw the one in Lagos and all those places that will bring industries. And so you saw the Philips and those doing, Leland was in Ibadan assembling. So all these people came around because of the environment created by the government. And some people thought it true for them. Not necessarily people who get paid for it. But the moment we turn everything to mercantile benefits, that was the gain, was in it for us, you can't move the nation forward.
All right, it's still Morning Spring right here, and I have been speaking with Mr. LANRE FADAHUNSI. We'll be looking at, we just looked at the part of what it looks like right here in Osun State, the speed at which the debt profile is, and we just pray and hope that, hey, this can be amicably resolved, because this is a humongous amount. As at 2022, towards the tail end of the year, we heard it was about 331.2 billion naira. That's massive. But still in Osun State, there's been this call by teachers that, hey, we have low set of teachers in the government-owned schools right here in the state, but why are they not filled up? Why don't we have more teachers in our schools right here in Osun State? We'll take a report concerning that, which was done by one of my colleagues very, very shortly, and let's get to hear what it looks like. Then we'll talk about that, and hopefully one of my other guests will be seated in the house with us. Please stay with us.
About 2.3 million teachers in Nigeria are captured in the database of Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria, TRCN. But out of these statistics, 70% of teachers in private schools in Osun, Oyo, Lagos, Ondo, Ogun, and Kwara State are not registered. The TRCN in its latest report described the teachers under this category as cheaters, adding that they are not qualified to be registered with the body. However, few educationists like Wale Oyebi, a retired Deputy Secretary General of the Nigerian Union of Teachers, says many teachers in private schools are not registered under the TRCN owing to the low remuneration they are being paid.
You know, the fact is, when we look at it, majority of them, they are earning less. Some of those proprietors, they don't pay much.
Mr. Oyebi noted that TRCN as a regulatory body for teachers should be saddled with the responsibility of enforcing compulsory renewable license for teachers in Nigeria, a situation he says has not been practicable in the teaching system.
The TRCN should have the certificate now you give it to teachers, should have time lag 2 years, 3 years. That's what 100% bodies are doing. After that, all teachers, once your professional license, once it lapses, you re-enroll again.
However, many have decried the trajectory of secondary school certificate owners teaching in some private schools. But a school administrator in Osun State, Oyinkansola Omigbodo, while speaking on the criteria of employment in private schools, says applicants are placed on strict academic scrutiny in our school before being employed to teach, adding that priority is placed on applicants with BA, BEd, and BSc.
For instance, first of all, I make sure that I don't even take so many NCE holders, and I made that decision because I found that the quality of NCE holders nowadays does not measure up. And so what I do is I employ teachers who are degree holders who have what we call a postgraduate diploma in education. And sometimes teachers that we employ do not have postgraduate diplomas. We encourage them to go back to do a part-time program, and many of them have since done that and have their TRCN registration as well. So what I do is to ensure that you are a graduate. That's the least benchmark. And then I also sometimes I do take HND holders, higher national diploma holders, but with the postgraduate diploma in education in view, I take those.
Meanwhile, Thomas Akomolafe, who is the world chairman of the National Association of Proprietors of Private Schools, NAPS, in Osun State, countered TRCN statistics, claiming that 95% of teachers in the private schools in Osun State are qualified. He added that priority is given more to holders of National Certificates of Education, NCE.
Presently in Osun State, which I belong to Osun, I have not seen something of that, but let me say 5%, but 95% in our various schools, they are qualified. 5% might not be qualified since we are individual differences, but 95% they are much qualified.
According to the Nigerian Union of Teachers, the minimum teaching qualification in Nigeria is the National Certificate of Education. Toby Sanusi, Western Spring Television News.
Many states are currently battling with shortage of teachers, as some who retired have not been replaced through regular recruitment. Osun State has been listed alongside other states like Ogun, Ondo, Rivers, Kwara, Gombe, and Katsina as states that have the worst affected schools in rural areas, including shortage of teachers. In an interview with Newsman, the national president of the Nigerian Union of Teachers stated that many governors shunned the advice of the union, which pleaded that retired teachers should be replaced through recruitment. He said this was the reason why the NUT fought for the elongation of the service so that it would cushion the effect of sudden retirement. Some teachers working in Osun State and who spoke on the condition of anonymity stated that schools in rural and semi-urban areas were the worst hit by inadequate teachers, further revealing that unqualified teachers employed by the Parents Teachers Association has been teaching in many public schools. Investigation revealed that LANRE Grammar School and Islaudin Grammar School in Oshogbo, amongst other schools in Osun State, lack adequate numbers of teachers, as some teachers teaches more than a subject. In a chat with our news team, the Osun State NUT chairman, Muritala Fatade, confirmed that public schools in the state are expressing a drastic shortfall in the number of teachers needed. Fatade will appeal to the state government to employ many more teachers in the schools to boost the standard of education in Osun State. Also implored the Adelike's administration to reinstate the 1,500 sacked teachers that took the normal procedures in getting the job.
Really, there is acute shortage of teachers in Osun State, in our public, both primary and secondary schools. We've informed the government about this development. It is as bad as in some local government, in the suburb areas. You have some schools whereby you have about 5 teachers in a whole secondary school, 6 teachers in a school. What miracle can these teachers perform? You should at least absorb these 1,500 teachers, those that took the proper channel, took the form, passed through necessary lay down rules. They should please reabsorb them.
Reacting, the spokesperson to the Osun State Governor, Olawale Rasheed, said the government is aware of this issue, and in a matter of time, the issue of shortage of teachers will be a thing of the past. When asked about the fate of the 1,500 displaced teachers, Rasheed gave an assurance that their cases have been reviewed and the outcome would be revealed very soon, insisting that the shortage of teachers was not in any way related to the displacement of the 1,500 teachers.
In the public sector, of course, there are vacancies. And what the governor has done, what the administration has done, is to embark on personnel audits, not just of the education sector, but of the health and other sectoral areas. The goal is to know what exactly is the state of staffing across the schools. When you now get those data, you can now see where the gaps are, and the government can now immediately know what to do to fill up the gap. The issue of the 1,500 teachers, they were taken in largely under political circumstances. And what this administration is doing now is to review the whole process, to actually know where are the areas where we need the personnel, we need the teachers, which subject area, fixed science or art or whatever. When that is determined, based on that data analysis, you can now say, okay, let me cite example of the 1,500 workers. Definitely there will be analysis of what is their area of specialization. You now match it with what you have on ground. That's the vacancies you have on ground. So as at now, what the government has succeeded in doing is to actually do the staffing analysis, the vacancies across the schools, and that is ongoing. When that is completed, a decision will now be taken to know, okay, who do we take in and at what level?
Education plays an important role in personal growth. The more knowledge one has, the more one grows and is able to face the world. Olayinka Ali, Western Spring Television News.
Right, thank you, Olayinka Ali, for that report. And if you're just tuning in, it's Morning Spring right here from Western Spring Television. We are on channels 190 DTT on Star Times. And obviously, you can also get to watch us live on all our social media handles on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. I still have Mr. LANRE FADAHUNSI still with me here in the studio. Thank you for your time, sir. We spoke about the debt profile. Let's look at the state at which teachers, lack of teachers in our schools in the Southwest, and using Osun State as a case study today. From the report, we've heard that competency seemed to be a little bit far away from the teaching profession, teaching line these days in some private schools. Do you ascribe to that?
Well, I may be bold to say that some private schools are delivering. The qualification of their teachers is not particularly part of what determines the results. What counts most is their results when they take examinations.
Absolutely.
And when you look at the situation on ground, the teachers of government schools probably will go on strike because of one thing or the other. The private schools, they don't stop. At the end of the day, some of these private schools still have hostel facilities, wherein there is preparatory classes. There are other activities in school activities that broadens the knowledge of the students. And so when you look at their results, I know of some schools here in Osun that when you look at it, they score 90, 95% success in WAEC and NECO. And that's the benchmark of what shows achievement. So, it's not going to be what's the certification of those who taught them. And look at it this way. That's the difference. That we must see. There are certain things we need to do to make any society that does not put education in its rightful place cannot go forward. I was saying it the other time while we were in school. For instance, I am the first vice president of my National Students Association, Olivet. We have to get teachers that we pay salaries to.
Wow.
As old student association. Because you don't have physics teacher, you don't have mathematics teacher, you don't have English teachers, and you want to send in students for work. If you have just one English teacher, how do you do that? It's not possible. So those are things that ordinarily should not be responsibilities of the associations. But because government will say, we don't have the funds to replace teachers who have left. Now, let us be honest, that's where superior argument comes in. If somebody is living on grade level 17 as a school principal, he started from the wrong bottom of the ladder, level 8, 9, 10, to that 17, his salary while he is living will pay 3 new teachers who are new entrants. He left, nobody's coming in. So like 50 of them left this month, another 50 next month, and you did not aggregate that and still bring in these fresh ones to replace immediately. That space will be there.
Absolutely.
Why?
Absolutely.
Because we, for instance, look at it this way. There are some states that said, look, for security votes, governors have access to like 250 million to 500 million a month. And out of an allocation of about 4 billion, that 500 must come out. Do you get the drift? Whereas some will say, I'm turning into education so that you get computers for schools, you get teachers for them, and pay them from that. These are things that shows service commitment. I know of a school principal that retired level 17 consolidated in 2017, and as at 2022 I think, December, was still not earning anything since 2017. This new administration did that perfect, wonderful one. We took half salaries from you people, the previous government. I mean, government is a continuum.
Yes.
So every month, instead of collecting zero, we will start paying you your own half salary. Wonderful. You see, you must sit down and think unique things to make things, because I can't imagine how somebody who was collecting like 200,000, 220,000 naira every month since 2017, the day he left, he has not now collected anything every month. But thank God for that savings of that, it's helping those ones out now. The educational system, if we don't look at it perfectly well, we may be losing out. Because that value that should be added, for instance, the 1,500 they talked about, the government should consider it as an emergency. Emergency in the sense that by the time you start looking at the WAEC results of this administration, it will tell a whole lot about it. Because you cannot give what you don't have. Absolutely. If you have not taught the students well, you can't expect them to pass well. So ordinarily, they should look at that. I'll tell you one of those beneficiaries of that appointment. You don't look at the value or at the manner in which something was done. You look at the value of what was done. Somebody is a beggar and he needs help. And one other person, a rich man, threw that coin at him. He hit him on the chest. The way he did it was not right. But that coin, by the person that received it, will function well for him. You understand? A medical doctor was part of those team of the so-called 1,500. Do we have enough of doctors in our hospitals? That's an emergency. So you look at such emergencies and say, look, these ones are unique cases. Let's bring them back. How can a medical in Nigeria of today, that young lad will probably get an opportunity and just call London, whatever bad, and they bring him out. And you'll not be saying they jackpot. Why wouldn't they? But there is even got an opportunity you are taking in. You will be getting some little training from the senior registrars and the staffs, and to get more. Such people were not supposed to have been. I mean, you sift and winnow and say, look, these few ones are emergency cases. Mathematics teachers, those who are teaching physics, those who are teaching English, because they are basic requisites. You must pass maths and English, and then some other courses in the sciences. Those ones, let's first of all, at least they absorb them immediately, because you see one maths teacher in a whole school
taking all students.
So the best you can do is maybe some brilliant students that did their school sat and passed mathematics. You say they should go and be doing remedial training, and they'll be paying them. I mean, we are not working like we want results. So look at that list. Forget about party affiliation now. What benefit can it do to our system, so that when the results come, they'll say, last WAEC, it was 30-something%. Now Oshun has gone to 60-something in the first year of Adeleke. That is what people will look at. That is what people will judge the government by. Absolutely. And so when you are now paying points of, okay, we want to bring our PEP people, because it is the APC people that, first of all, look at the emergency needs from that list, reabsorb them.
Mr. FADAHUNSI, thank you for taking us concerning that, because we remember that before the last administration of former Governor Obigo Itola left, he employed a couple of teachers, and when the administration of Senator Adeleke came in, those set of people were asked to look, step aside for now. But we've been talking about competence, we've been talking about having enough teachers in our different schools, because if you have just one mathematics or two mathematics teachers taking a whole school, one, for such a person, himself or herself, it wouldn't bring out the best in such a person. But that person is kind of like stretched. Now, when you've asked about 1,500 to go, and quite about 2-3 months gone past now, they've not replaced them. What does this look like for teachers in various government-owned schools in Osun State right now?
That's what I'm going to. You see, when I said emergency, you look at the competence of those people, the credentials that they have, how good it is. You use some of these as benchmarks to pick out. I mean, you have first-class people who took the exams, and you saw they were brilliant, and they're part of that 1,500. And now we want to play politics and say, look, they are members of APC, So we want to now bring in our own people. You will be replacing the mathematics teacher that you say is APC with a Yoruba teacher that is probably, I mean, some things don't pan out in instances like this. You don't get, I mean, you don't get results that people who succeed get if you don't take the route that they took. Use merit first. By way of merit, draw a line. These ones have proven mettle by reason of their credentials and what they have done. You can retest. Do a retest. If they match up, first of all, remove those ones. So that you now come back to the remaining and then play the, because they must play the politics. Yeah, so they felt some of their own people who were competent and had capacity too were not shortlisted then. Yes, but in the first instance, this is an emergency. So for that reason, you can reabsorb them. Look at the number of teachers, look at the number of people who have retired. Real figures. I mean, you don't work with statistics. You cannot be working in reality. But all because we want to reduce wage bill so that government can have enough money. So definitely as people are leaving, you are not paying them their entitlements. At the same time, you are not taking new people. You see, that's where the corny way some people think they are making savings for government, and it is not helping because society, at the end of the day, is paying the price.
But now that we've not brought back this set of teachers, and I feel teachers are stressed and stretched in our various government-owned schools today. The government of the day has been saying, hey, we're looking into this. How long will they keep looking into this? What is the hope of those who were asked to go? Do they have any hope of being called back, or we're going to play absolute politics at this moment in time?
I'll start from this angle. The woman that spoke just now, the proprietor of a school, the husband's father was a school administrator of a government school. You understand?
Yes.
And those days, the Fashionati days and the rest of them, BARR Fashionati, same one. He was a school principal, our school principal. His children were in school with us. Go to all those public schools. Tell the teachers there to bring out their children from the classes. They're not there. The government has not given them the convincing commitment to want to give the best to students. And so you don't see students who are children of teachers in their schools anymore. That's the first thing government should look at. While we were in school, commissioners' children were there with us. The governor's children were in public schools. As a matter of fact, some of Baba Obasanjo's children were in school with us at Olivet. Do you get the drift? So that goes to show you that when you are sure of what you are serving, you want to even be beneficiary of it. So that's the first leg you look at it. Principals don't have their children in schools. Teachers don't have their children in those schools because the commissioners and the political leadership don't have their children there. So they care less about what happens to that set of people. And a private school said, okay, I even tell them I have postgraduate diploma in education. I don't take NCE again. I even take degree holders. But it doesn't mean that person will probably be paying what government will pay a degree holder. So government can pull out such people who are brilliantly okay to take the system to the higher level back into the system by reason of that weeding and sifting and winnowing. You remove the very best, bring them into the system first. They will even be training some of their other teachers to, by way of challenge. This person is getting results. Let's copy. But the way it's going, I recall when Ogbeni Adegbeshola came. I'm not talking about the implementations of it, but there was an education summit. We need to look at that because basically what gives, look at it, for some time now, some states in the southeast have been leading WAEC for the past 6 years. Because some decisions were taken by those governors in those states at those times, and they saw value in education. And you see it happening. I saw one of these South chaps in China. Best students graduating.
Wow.
Spoke the Chinese language in the valedictorian. I was like, wait a minute. You see, there are foundations. If the foundation is not good, you can't get the best out of the system.
Absolutely.
Majority, I knew of one of our professors in Ife then, was the director of the Center for Energy Research and Development, Professor Antonio. He had a 5.0 GPA. But those are people who attended local authority primary schools. So, I mean, but all those ones are eroded now. We want to make believe that maybe we should just give them education for addition and subtraction and let them move on. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. It helps nations to grow. And that's why we must have a rethink about it.
I just hope teachers, we can get all this issue of the set of teachers that were employed by the last administration, but they were booted out by this present administration right here in Osun State. Government of the day, we just hope, let's get back to the ways, the winning ways. Southwest states used to be at the forefront of all this WAEC, and but today it's not looking good for education in Nigeria today. How can we take back and bring back those good old times for our teachers? Some people have said, look, let's send them on refresher courses. This should be something regular. Why don't governments these days have regards for teachers anymore? Let me use that word. Don't they have regard for teachers anymore?
Can't give what you don't have. You heard the immediate past Minister of Education,
oh boy,
telling Nigerians that he did not have any knowledge of what he was supposed to do in that place. And so some other factors would have overridden whatever documentation technocrats gave him as way forward in education. Do we really care about education? That's the thing, that the policy of those who put him there, what's their view about education compared to so many other things? Now we must understand the value of education. In those days, with pride as young people, who sing Eko Darakupo, Eko Lola Yetawayise, Eko Logbe Azikiwe. Azikiwe is not a Yoruba man, but we knew he was a great man because he had education.
Absolutely.
Eko Logba Wolowoga. These are things that were ringing in our heads, that this can move our nation forward. And it did then. That was why we could have a television station in the Western region before France. The first in Africa. These are things that comes by way of education. When you have education, your attraction to greed, your attraction to opulence and wealth will be guided. It won't be an overriding one. The desire to have money as overriding. You see, I recall what Bob Marley said, that some people are so poor that all they have is money because they can't really think things that will embed them in the hearts of the people. Embed them in the hearts of the people. You were talking about Bill Gates. Bill Gates will be in T-shirt. Mark Zuckerberg came to Lagos ordinary. He's not even new. These are some of the values that we carry. That somebody was wearing, I think, a 7 million naira suit. I said, what madness? It might be, no, it may be, I may be wrong, but to me, I think that could have touched lives of people around you. Absolutely. But the way they look at it is like some people have identity crisis. That's the way I look at it. Though I must use a 1 million naira phone. Well, I mean, is it going to predict tomorrow for you? I don't know. Maybe it works like a crystal ball. Because to me, but I'm not saying it's wrong for those people.
Yes, please.
Your value system, all those things, education guides and directs it. And so when you look at people who don't miss out, some of our lecturers, while we were at Ife, till tomorrow, still wear the t-shirt and they have not missed anything, they have not lost anything, because those things that attract some people has never been attractive. They want a good society, and that's why you call them activists. The truth is, they have a good, well-developed mind, and they have a charted course of how we can get Nigeria right. But unfortunately, it looks like successive leaderships after the first generation republic politicians, had a derailed arrangement into my Mercedes is bigger than yours. You see, the authors, even in those days, there was a write-up then, a novel, my Mercedes is bigger than yours, which guides people in those days. And look, wait a minute, these things you are chasing are shadows. But over time, all those ones were eroded. At some point, they removed history from our educational system so that you can have a knowledge of the past that can guide your present and design your future. That period, that short period they removed it, we lost traction. We couldn't really get ourselves, so trying to get back online, it was difficult. It became difficult. So it became more lucrative to say, I'm selling planks, and before you know it, it's big. Just arithmetic plus a minus. And that's not developing science and technology. It's not developing intellectual inquest into IT. IT can do a whole lot of things, but we neglected deliberately. Some people made us neglect education, and suddenly the world is leaving us behind. This oil and gas we're talking about, within a few years, I tell people, I said, look, we might be thinking it will take time, oil will still be relevant. I said, look, those who went to go at school to study how Xerox does the typewriter, they did not think that the computer will come and remove all of that. The computer came with heavy machines. Later, it became tiny things. And all these things can do much more than a whole big computer. That is the movement of technology. Agfa films, those days, I want Kodak, but all of them is history now. And it happened within 2 years. 2 years and it was eroded. So if we're thinking we have a long pool because we have oil, we are making a mistake that technology will just catch up and that will be it. So we must learn to develop with the world because it's a global village. That's why education should be a major focus by every administration.
But it's always been so difficult for government at the federal level to be able to impact the amount as put together by UNESCO, which will be about 26% in the budget in Nigeria today. To put about, I think it's even less than 10% that government is putting into education, into funding education. That's why probably we're having this ASU strike. But what should federal government do away from even Osun State?
Away from Osun State, that's what I'm saying. That's, you see, when we want to employ, it's employment. When you vote leaders, you need to engage them. And what they come with will show you their mindset. Business as usual is what brought us to this sorry path. And suddenly, our young people think these people don't have a plan for our future, and they are getting out and getting it right. I was moved when somebody who graduated from, I think, IFE or UI as a medical student, graduated as a doctor, is over there abroad and did a surgery on the fetus, removed the baby from the womb, did surgery and returned it. A feat, international world feat. It was on CNN. A Nigerian Yoruba medical doctor. But he got to that place to get that opportunity to explore. But that is what we kill here. We kill initiative. And we don't know when we kill initiative in education, you are killing the nation. Some of us assisted in it. Oh, we must have school starts for Buhari. They say they don't mind. Even if it is a NEPA bill, he wants to tender as a certificate. And we saw what happened. He was pursuing what he knows. Cows should have freedom. Cows should be better. Cows should, and all of a sudden, education became nothing. Schools were taken over by bandits. Nothing was done. Because education was seen by some of those bandits to be a misnomer. How do we grow like that? We must come to the round table and see what education can do to assist us. Nations of the world are selling guns to Africa. They are selling all those evil things to Africa because Africa has refused. If we are the ones manufacturing guns, they should come and buy. But we have the knowledge to do them, but we did not develop it. And they help us to keep ourselves in that cocoon that don't go that route. You don't need to produce. We don't produce anything anymore. We consume.
Absolutely. We're not
so once we are not a producing nation, you are just consuming. You are the mercy of the world.
That's whatever comes your way.
Whatever comes your way. And so we should really sit down with this government and tell them the world is leaving us behind. There are vehicles that you speak to. Technology has gone that far.
Absolutely.
And so, I mean, and our people have them. Our leaders have them. They buy Telsa, they have it in their homes abroad, they call the vehicle, comes and picks them from their park, takes them out. And they can't think that technology can do some of these things for us. They have light trains that will travel from here to Kano in 2 hours, which means you can sleep in Osogbo and resume work by 9 a.m. in Kano and come back home the following, 2 hours after. Our people will enjoy all of these, but they are not thinking we must sit down. And the one thing that can help you do it is education. If you don't build your educational system, you cannot go that route.
Before we probably move to what I will speed up to talk about, now that we have this issue here in our dear state, Osun State, if you go to call out to the government of Senator Adeleke right now to look at the speed at which teachers are languishing and we lack enough teachers in government-owned schools today, what steps should Mr. Governor and his administration and his team take to cushion the effect of probably one teacher taking a whole school?
The first thing I would suggest is for this government to declare an education emergency. Call every known Osun indigent that has been in the educational process, as retired, as currently there, to a sit-up meeting. We want to solve this problem once and for all. Give us ideas on how to go about it. We'll tell you our problems. We don't have funny enough. This is what we have for that sector. This is what we can still add. If you know ways we can generate revenue, if you know ways we can do one thing or the other, let's think together. University of California has a budget that is greater than state governments in America.
Yes.
Because they manufacture things, they produce hardwares, military hardwares, that every army in the world is patronizing them for. You must work at something, but you must plan it. It doesn't come by accident. The state should know that for this state to go higher than it has been in the last 12 years, you must sit down with people to talk. We have a lot of Osun indigents who have been professors, are retired, and all the rest of them. Some are eager and active and strong to still do. I recall I had interactions, deep ones, with Professor Adibayo Lamikona because he writes for Guardian in those days. But he's a professor of pharmacy. He did more literary work, that's my line, than most people who are lecturers in English and literature. But a professor of pharmacy, a whole lot of them like that can come, they are Osun indigents, they will be glad to sit up and give us position.
Bring in stakeholders.
Stakeholders to talk about it. We need it now than ever. We need our young people to start thinking of producing, manufacturing, and bringing out science, technology, alternative technologies. We need alternative technologies with raw materials that we have here and the rest of it so that we can grow. I recall youth service in China some 30 years back was that the young people who graduate school go and start teaching adult education. You get round all of those places. That was one. Then two, whatever we cannot produce, we will not consume. So that was the origin of the tatong, all those plastic televisions. That's what they can produce that time. And all of a sudden, they brought it Africa was taking it over. We were buying it. You are a young graduate, you got a job. The first TV you can buy then is probably Totong. It's 100 naira or so. You have it, you have their radio sets, it's China, but he's speaking, he's talking to you. Those battery radios, while we're in school, you remove, you put one battery, you close, you are listening to the transistor. Those were the things they started their own productions with. Not the heavy Grundig, big name things that you had from Germany, from the rest of them. These are things we need to look at to give our nation a turnaround. Education, what can we do? Manufacture something. I saw some lads, I think, I've not asked after it, but they said they were using those plastic stuffs like that, and they said they produced diesel from it locally. It was a BBC coverage thing, and that they poured it in generator, it worked. The fuel they did, it worked locally, just from wastes. Some of these things, these ideas will work when you are channeling it directly. We want the state government to look at that position and drive this government using technocrats like Ashwaju wants to do, according to that claim. Because bring people who are, use examples of those who have succeeded. How did Awo do it in those days? How did Ahmadu Bello do to have gotten some things right? That they had the pyramids in the north of groundnuts, and use what you have to get what you want. We all saw Cocoa House today. It was because of the ingenuity of some people that sat around the table and designed ways of getting these things done. We need more of that. We cannot be saying political party patronage now because things are so bad.
Mr. Fadahunsi, before we call it a wrap on the show this morning, I just want us to quickly say 6 months now into the administration of the Osun State Governor, ably led by Senator Adeleke. So the issue of chieftaincy title, authorship, I don't want to use Balaba, it's been generating tension. Some of these towns have been, there's been chaos, there's been burning, maiming, there's been killings to an extent in some of this. And we remember that there was a white paper that was released that, look, this will be sorted out. And here we are at this moment in time. In one of our reports, we heard the interview that, look, this is generating tension. Why is this taking forever?
Yeah, basically, I have looked at that issue, and I realized if we don't look back, we may not be able to project positively forward. There was a government, Onilola was in government for 7 years plus. One, when there's undue interference in the process, it becomes an issue. If you don't directly influence and interfere in the setup, it becomes a major issue. Now, I was in one of the local governments when they were going to choose an Oba. They had 7 chiefs, and one was late, remaining 6. One was bedridden, and they had 5. And they had to vote to elect a new Oba. We got there and they were like, okay, but the one that was bedridden was the one that was supposed to do the traditional rites. It has not been done. Wow. We got there and realized some politicians are trying to influence. They had brought OPC, they had brought everybody, that those people, they do wrong things, just finish everybody. And I was like, wait a minute. I told the chairman of the committee that we went with that, wait a minute. If they said this person that is bedridden is a major person that must determine by way of consulting the traditional whatever, that must be done before this thing we have come here to do. So definitely we did not do that there. The chaos was averted. However, they said until that man does that, after he did it, the next thing was come and vote at the local government secretariat. So you cannot now surround local government secretariat, which is government entity, like you will do in your village. And that action was taken. The Oba was, but I will tell you, in the days of Inola, I saw a lot of people become Obas in this state that I was like, wait a minute, how come? A friend of mine was a civil servant. The current Owamiron Vesauke were schoolmates. He was a civil servant. So when you're talking about people of means, Esauke is a major town of history in Yoruba land.
Absolutely.
A town of late Chief Bola Ige. But at that time, if people of means and the rest of them had tried to get that seat through Oyinlola, probably there would have been crisis. But the traditional thing, and the first thing he does is he doesn't waste time. He will lead everybody. He will be the one to first prostrate for that king. Do you get? It might look dramatic then, but it was like things flowed like seamlessly. But when you are putting in, we want a supporter of our party to be there, that will still set you back. The moment these things are done, go there with people, the town people who even want to be your friend and the rest of them will say the governor has come, he has shown respect to our Oba, let us all support him. We see going to some Obaship issues are in court for 30 years or more. But however, because of the way the government and the governor hold sway, they leave all that decision to the court. They don't fight in the streets anymore.
Obaship thing should be, I feel it should be a traditional thing.
That is it. Well, so when people now drop in some other things, extraneous issues outside of the traditional setting, then it becomes an issue, it becomes a problem.
That's what we're having here?
So, yeah, in most, now with this government, it was an adopted issue. Adopted in the sense that over politicization of Obaship institution had over the years, you say, you know, the APC was in government for 12 years.
Yes.
Over the years, these things had come up. Well, I am mentioning Prince Oyinlola's administration because he happens to be a royal prince. Probably that was why he had a way of language with all those institutions that worked in this. I wouldn't know whether there were major issues in anywhere where they had issues, but it never took long to replace Obas.
We need to go, Mr. Fadahunsi, what should this present government do to settle this issue of chieftaincy Obaship title in Osun State now?
The moment anywhere you find over 60% of the traditional people that are supposed to actually see to these issues in alliance with those Obas that have been in place, they should allow those ones pass. And whatever it is with the others, then they can now sit down again and tell the traditional institutions to go through the process all over again and give the people acceptable Obas without politicizing those decisions. They'll get a freeway.
I'd like to thank you most sincerely for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you always. And I want to thank you for being there with us on the program for today. I'll be back again tomorrow on another edition of Morning Spring from Western Spring Television. On behalf of the entire transmission team, Tunde IDOWU is my name. Have a wonderful day.
Identifies Herbert Macaulay as dramatist, playwright, and icon of Yoruba thematic arts. Duro Ladipo was born December 18, 1931 in Osogbo, southwest Nigeria. His clergyman father christened him Timothy. His other names, Duro Dola, Duro Shomo, Duro Rike, reflected his persona and the circumstances that surrounded his birth. The legendary stage actor had in several public fora identified himself as one of the greatest abikus born to die in this world. Family records reveal how he was born and died 13 times. The intertwining names he Healers Olayinka Herbert Macaulay, politician.